What is going on, my Bob Nation? I am Bobsy Baldred, and I am here with another video. And in this video, it is another deck battle video. And I'm here playing on the left. My opponent is here playing on the right. And in this video, we will have kind of two different decks. Yes, finally, no Gengar Trevenant, no Gengar Wailord. My opponent is playing a Seismitoad Raichu deck, so we've seen that deck before, but the deck that I am running is completely different. Nothing that we've seen before in this series on YouTube, so I am excited to see that. And here we go with the video. So, a lot of my cards in this deck are from Ancient Origins, so a lot of these cards will be proxies, and some of them will be Japanese proxies. So, just keep in mind that yes, I know I'm playing with Japanese proxies, and I know what they do, so I'm not just going in blind with a proxy. I'll also tell you what, the cards do, and as I start with a Lugia EX right here, a card that is coming out in Ancient Origins, and its first attack is called Arrow Ball, and it does 20 times the amount of energy attached to Lugia EX, as well as the defending Pokemon, which in this case is a Seismitoad EX. And so instantly when people saw this Lugia EX and they saw Arrow Ball, they're like, it's exactly like Mewtwo, but it's a lot better, and for a couple reasons. Number one, it's not a psychic Pokemon, and it's not weak to itself, so you can't get into stupid Mewtwo wars. And, number two, Deep Hurricane, which is its second attack, is a lot better than Size Drive, which was Mewtwo's second attack. Deep Hurricane does 8 damage plus 70 more damage if there's a Stadium card in play. Then you discard the card. So doing 108 or 150 damage for just 2 double colorless or 4 random energy isn't that bad. You're not discarding any energy. So overall, that's not that bad. But it really gets good when you attach a Muscle Band, and then you're doing 170 damage for just 4 energy. Also, you compare this up with the Gyarados, which is also out in Ancient Origins, that it poisons both active Pokemon. Now, this could come back to hurt Lugia because, Lugia does need that, you don't want to poison a Pokemon that, your own Pokemon, but it does give Lugia that extra 10 damage they need to hit those one-hit knockouts on Pokemon. And also, you guys have already probably noticed already, yes, my opponent is running proxies. The Pokemon card that is flipped backwards is a double colorless energy, and that is also a Muscle Band right there. That is a proxy. And right off the bat here, Lugia EX can do 100 damage just right off the bat here. That's just the power of Lugia EX. It does 20-40 because there's 2 energy on Lugia. It does another 40 from the 2 energy on Seismitoad. Muscle Band that, and you're hitting for 100. That is just, the speed and the power of Lugia EX, and, it's just completely crazy. And, we will see a Aegislash come onto the bench, and now, Aegislash is a very good card as well. And, that also means that probably playing a Metal deck, which is what I am playing. So, this is kind of a Metal variant, I guess, but instead of playing like a Metal Raise, I'm playing Lugia EX, which I have found to be very fun. It's very, very consistent, and, it can hit for a lot of damage on first turn, where, Metal Raise has to kind of set up, take its time doing that. This deck is just start going quick with the Lugia EX, and just start hitting for quick numbers, set up the Pokemon on the bench. When the Lugia EX gets knocked out, slide those Pokemon up, and just start, keep on hitting. Just keep on putting pressure on your opponent. And we see an Enhanced Hammer drop down, discarding that special energy. And, that is also one of the weaknesses of this deck. Going up against another deck that runs Aegislash, this deck will struggle because Lugia EX is our main attacker. So, that is also something that concerns me with this deck because Aegislash will just wall with it. So that is a little bit of a concern. And we will also see an AZ pick up the Seismitoad, healing all damage off of it. And discarding that special energy. Normally, picking up an AZ and, discarding or sorry, he uses a scoop up. Or maybe my opponent did use an AZ. I didn't really pay attention. But anyway, if he played a AZ, then he would have discarded the special energy, and in a normal situation, you wouldn't want to do that. But Aegislash is out, so that is something that is a concern if you just happen to wall. Although we did attach the double colorless energy to the Seismitoad, so that is something to worry about too, because that Aegislash is just sitting there on the bench, and if that Seismitoad can't get any normal energy on it, I can just wall with the Aegislash, and I'd just be completely fine doing that. And that's another thing about this deck that's really cool. It has a lot of different options that it can do with if this deck is playing a Primal Groudon, a Primal Kyogre, two decks that don't really run that many special energy, if any at all. Aegislash is completely worthless. Just come in with a Lugia and hit for really high numbers, because those Pokemon use a lot of energy. And if you're playing a Toad deck, or something that runs some special energy, Vespiquen with Be Revenge that is coming out, I will be completely fine just coming up and walling with an Aegislash. And right off the bat, I have a really great start. My opponent's a little bit of an issue here, where he's not able to continuously keep on quaking punching, so that is kind of an issue for him, as my deck does run somewhat heavily on those item cards. I do need those level balls to get those Bronzongs and Bronzors out, so that is something that could really slow this deck down if I'm playing an opponent that's got a turn 1 Seismitoad, DC, Muscle Band. The second turn they start just quaking punching, and not able to pull Level Ball or an Ultra Ball. That could be quite an issue for me. So that is something to worry about. This deck also runs Shaman, with that amazing setup ability. Put it down, draw cards until there are 6 cards in your hand. That is another card that really helps this deck move quickly. To get those level balls and those ultra balls and those muscle bands and those double colorless, those battle compressors, all of these cards that really just help this deck work faster and faster and faster. Shaman is very important to do so. And there's also a Skyfield out, so that is our, stadium of choice with the Lugia here for this battle. This deck also runs 3 Cloud Drain City, and Cloud Drain City is a stadium card that in between turns it puts damage counters on any Mega Evolved Pokemon in play. In this situation, that card is completely worthless, as, well, my opponent doesn't play any Megas, but it really helps, in situations where there's like a Mega Rayquaza deck I'm playing, Primal Groudon or Primal Kyogre, where, those Pokemon have some very high HP counts. And, it allows me to still get those one-hit knockouts if I'm able to weaken them with Cloud Drain City. So, it really helps, just get those one-hit knockouts. And that's really where it's going for. A lot of people are saying, well, why don't you just use Arrow Ball and spam that? Honestly, I think, this might come as a surprise, but, Lugia's second attack is probably better than its first. Because you can just hit those one-hit knockouts if you have the right cards. If you get those right cards out, get Gyarados out, Stadium card out, you get those right cards out, you can hit for some decent numbers. And, that is just a really, great way, I think, to just, get a quick and fast-paced deck. And we will see my opponent play a Raichu and a Escape Rope. So, at this point, it's more about him switching into something than me switching into something. I could just go into another Lugia, but we will see him go back to the Seismitoad. So that is big for my opponent, as he needs to start quaking punching soon, as I do not have, that Bronzong out. So, that is something he has to try to prevent. And I think, Seismitoad will do a decent job at doing that. It's just a matter of if I can get a Lugia out with the double colorless Muscle Band, it just works faster than Seismitoad can. And we are able to get a Bronzong out on the field, not what my opponent wanted. And we can just start Metal Linksing, and I will opt to go with the Aegislash, you know, just because my opponent is running those double colorless energies. Well, might as well just start putting some energy on that Aegislash and get ready to wall. And, you know, that's another thing I talked about. My deck has a lot of options that I can work around. If my opponent wants to start playing some special energy, well, just slide up the Aegislash. If they don't, come in with Lugia for a lot of power. I also have a Heatran down the field if there's, you know, something that will prevent any damage done to it by a Pokemon EX. Use that if I am in a little bit of an issue there. Do something like that. And that's just great. Although, I do not have any, does not appear that I have any energy on that Lugia, so I better be starting to get some pressure. And I do flip a heads on that Birch, so that is really good. And, you know, I think Birch is a little bit better than Shauna, mainly because, you know, if you happen to draw one less card, is it really that big of a deal? You know, it depends, but I prefer Birch overall. If I have a VS Seeker, I just go for the Birch. And I do get the heads, so that is huge, you know. You know, there's a high risk, but if you get that high risk and you get the reward, well, it's fun. And we'll see my opponent play Birch. And also these decks are built for the rotation, I believe, so you won't see any cards that are going to be rotated out besides some Junipers. I believe my opponent's playing, just because it's the same thing as Sycamore. So, I mean, it's not that big of a deal to not have it if it's just a kind of a casual match like this one is. And my opponent will flip aheads on the Birch. So, you know, if he can pull out some stuff, some shenanigans that Seismitoad likes to run, you know, to kind of troll me out a little bit, maybe a Lysander for next turn, Lysander up that Heatran, stall a little bit, do what Seismitoad likes to do, and, you know, maybe he can get something. I do see a Headringer in his hand, so he, you know, if I wouldn't have put any of those muscle bands on my Pokemon, on my EXs, he could have gone and just Headringered it up. But, you know, my deck does run 4 muscle bands, so, you know, if he would have gotten that earlier, it would have been quite annoying to have a Headringer on a Pokemon. And, you know, just prevent me from doing that extra 20 damage I need for those one-hit knockouts. So, that can be quite annoying at times. And he'll just do another Quaking Punch for 50, and that's what Seismitoad does, just Quaking Punch, Quaking Punch, Quaking Punch. And my hand is starting to get relatively large, mainly because I can't use any item cards, so a lot of the times when you play a Seismitoad deck, it's just kind of a draw a card, okay, gonna wait, draw another card, play a supporter, just you're recycling through the same cards over and over again. And, you know, that's what Seismitoad does. It really just makes a lot of your cards in your deck dead. And, you know, Seismitoad could win the game just from decking you out, you know, because some players that play aggressively might discard those item cards and, you know, work too fast trying to get something set up, because the only way to set things up with Seismitoad is through supporters or, you know, Shaman or other Pokemon or something like that. With no item cards, it's very difficult to do that. And for some reason, I'm not able to pull up a double colorless energy on the Lugia, which is starting to become quite an issue for me. And we will see another Metalinks onto the Aegislash. Right there. But yeah, that is becoming quite a big issue for me. You know, although, I mean, Seismitoad runs slow, and that is a weakness of Toad, it just runs slow. And, you know, that's why those lasers are so important to the deck, because it helps make the Toad deck work a lot faster. So I'm personally fine just letting this Lugia get knocked out, because I have that Aegislash. I can just come in, start doing some damage, and just wall and prevent that Seismitoad from, attacking me if it's got that special energy attached to it. And that is just the true power of Aegislash. And with Garbodor rotating out of the standard format, Aegislash is going to be a very, very good card. And I can see it, finding itself into a lot of decks. Metal Rays, like a normal Metal Lynx deck. My deck, of course. Just a lot of decks really can use this card, just because special energy dominate the game, and they really kind of always have. They're just a great way to get your Pokemon charged up fast if it's a double colorless energy, or, have different types of energy for your Pokemon to use, different stuff like that. Just, they're very good. And so now I have a Aegislash with 4 metal energy, it appears, on it. So Aegislash's attack does 40 damage plus 20 more damage for each metal energy on it. So it works really well with the Metal Lynx deck, because you can just start putting those metal energy and attaching them to that Aegislash. Really great there. And, now I can hit for some decent amount of damage. And my opponent is probably just reading Aegislash to clarify, make sure that, yeah, you have to attach normal energy. You can't attach a special energy, or unless you don't want to do anything besides item locking me, which at this point, not really the best thing to do. But he will opt out to attach it to the Toad, and he will attach it to the Raichu instead. And with the Skyfield out, if he can grab some Pokemon, he can do a decent amount of damage with that. Although he'll only be able to get one attack off, so he needs to get some decent amount of Pokemon quick. And, really, I just have the upfront in this battle right now. I've got the Aegislash powered up, and another thing with the Metal Lynx, you can play very aggressively with the deck. Any person that plays with the deck, just plays aggressively, because if your Pokemon happens to get knocked out, well, just, put up a Pokemon, start Metal Lynxing something on the bench, and you're good to go. If you find a switch or just a double colorless, you can retreat and, just set things up. Whereas if you were playing a normal deck that can't recycle through energy as well as a Metal Lynx deck, you have to play a little bit more conservatively, and you can't do that like a Metal Lynx deck can. And it looks like an escape rope was played. Yep. So that is a little annoying, preventing me from knocking out that Toad, and I'm going up against a Robo Sub, which is quite annoying. But if I can't pull a double colorless, I can just knock out that Robo Sub, or I could always just retreat and go back into the Aegislash, but at this point, it's not really worth it if I can just get a double colorless, knock out that Robo Sub. I have the upfront in this battle. And now that my opponent has let up on those item cards, I can start playing those item cards again. So that is just huge. Preventing, item cards is so good. And when you let up, your opponent makes sure to do whatever they can to do whatever they got to do for their deck, because they know probably won't last for very long. And we'll see a Battle Compressor drop. And, that run 2 of those in my deck. Those are just really great cards to help with the speed of this deck. Put some metal energy in the deck if you can't discard them through an Ultra Ball or a Sycamore or something like that. I'll just Battle Compressor 3 into the deck. Or into the discard pile, Excuse me there. And the only thing my opponent can really do if he wants to kind of make this go a little better for him is if he can find, I don't know, maybe a, really, at this point, there's nothing he can really do unless he can get a lot of Pokemon out and try to hit some one-hit knockouts. If he can pull a Muscle Band to get on the Raichu. But even at that point, I'm still going to be hitting one-hit knockouts on it, so... Although it does appear that my deck is getting a little thin, so, that's always an option. And it appears I'll just play a switch to come back into the Aegis Slash, and now I have a lot of energy attached to it. From attaching 2 more from the Bronzong that I battle compressed from the deck into the discard pile, it appears that I have 6 energy, maybe? It appears that I have, 6 energy attached to that Aegis Slash. So now it's just a huge wall, pretty much, that, any Pokemon that has special energy cannot do anything to it. And that is, the aggression of Metal Link's decks right there. Because you can just take energy from the discard pile and put them onto another Pokemon, you can charge up a Pokemon like that and really not have an issue with it. If Aegis Slash happens to get knocked out, plop it onto the discard pile, Metal Link's 2 on, attach 1, and I just start attacking again. And we do see a decent start from my opponent here. He does get some more Pokemon onto the bench, so he is going to be able to hit a decent amount of damage with that Raichu. If he can pull up another Raichu and evolve it into one of those Pikachus, he can start hitting for that again, and he'll be able to knock out that Aegis Slash, which will be a huge thing with my deck. If he can make that work very quickly, he might be able to get something going here. And really, he's just got a lot of, Pokemon on the bench here. He can hit for... Currently, he's hitting for... He is hitting for 140, and if he can find a Muscle Band, 160. So he does have to try to find another Pokemon. He could try to hit a one-hit knockout on this Aegis Slash right here, and that would be a huge blow to my deck, because then... it takes a couple turns to set up, and he can just start hitting for some damage here. Unfortunately, he does not appear to hit anything right now, but he does play the Birch, so he's going for something. I believe he hit a heads on that Birch, so if he can grab a Pokemon, and he does play the Muscle Band, so he can hit for 160, and... I think that'll be all he'll be able to do. Fortunately, he does not pull up that Pokemon that he was hoping to grab. I guess 160 damage will have to do. Actually, that was probably a misplay, playing that Muscle Band to the Raichu. Would have been a better option to put it to the Seismitoad, or just maybe a Pikachu so we could set up another Raichu. But nevertheless, I have a lot of damage on that Aegis Slash, and if I do happen to knock out that Raichu, my opponent could just sweep in with the Toad and get a knockout there. Surprisingly enough, he has more prize cards taken than I do, and surprisingly enough, he does. But that's the power of Item Lock and the power of Toad. It just stalls, and especially with this deck, you can't play those level balls, those ultra balls to get those Pokemon out, those battle compressors to get the energy in the discard pile. It just slows my deck down. And Seismitoad is a slow attacker, but if you can keep your opponent from using item cards, surely and slowly but surely you will get some knockouts. And I am able to knock out that Raichu that is there in active spot. So if my opponent can just come in here with the Toad to get the knockout, although it appears he did play a escape rope there, so he is going into the Lugia. I'm going into Lugia. He's going into the Toad. He should have put the Toad up first and just knocked out the Aegis Slash, which is kind of weird that he did that. Or he could have just discarded the Robo Sub, but now I can't see the discard pile, but it appears he played a Birch, I'm guessing. probably. So we'll see another Birch go getting played here. Yep, and he does get heads. And he was somehow miraculously able to roll the die on top of my deck. And he does get heads there. So maybe he'll be able to get that long-awaited Pokemon he's trying to grab here. If he can get a Raichu, maybe he can get something going here. But really, a Lysander would help a lot. If you could get a Lysander, if you could get that going the following turn, you could get something going here. You do see that Raichu drop down, so if he can get a Lysander for the next turn to knock out the Aegislash, he will be able to prevent me from blocking those Toads or any card that has a special energy attached to it any longer. And looks like he'll just Quaking Punch for 50. And if I can pull a double colorless, I can just come in here and get a knockout with the Aegislash. Will be a huge thing for my deck here. And I'll be able to evolve into the Gyarados. So now I have all the pieces I need in the puzzle to start hitting the 180. All I need is 2 double colorless energy to get on to a Lugia EX with the Muscle Band. I can start hitting for some damage. But it does not appear that I am able to pull up that double colorless energy, so I will just poison the Toad and poison the Lugia EX that is in the active spot. So now my opponent really has to think about what he's going to do here. If he continues to, attack here, I can just, keep that poison damage on him, and it'll eventually come to hit him. We'll see another Toad get charged up with another energy there. So now he can hit that Aegislash there. Finally, he was able to get a Toad charged up and ready for that. And appears I'm just going to be passing here. Or no, he'll just attack here for another 50 damage, and then with poison it'll do 60. And now I believe that his Seismitoad will just get knocked out here if I just pass a turn. So, Gyarados really helped me out here, just being able to get that Toad off the field. And maybe I did do a miscalculation there. Oh, I think he'll just use it. I don't even know what's going on here. It's just crazy. I don't even know what... Looks like I've got 130 on me, and he's got one... Well, it looks like he's got... So, if he attacks here, then he'll get knocked out, and we'll both... Yeah, if he attacks here, I believe he'll get knocked out, and then I'll also be able to knock out the Lugia here, so it's a risk. If he happens to knock it out, then, he'll be able to knock out the Lugia, but he's knocking himself out if he doesn't retreat here. And again, we're still kind of just talking here about whatever I do not know. Oh, the Headringer. Okay, he's headringering the Shaman there. Probably just, playing a Headringer in case I wanted to attack with Shaman. to just, you know, play some shenanigans or something like that. And I mean, at this point, I mean, both of our decks are kind of going so slow. You know, the power of Seismitoad. By Quaking Punching, I cannot use any item cards, and, you know, I can't VS Seeker for a card that I need, or VS Seeker for a Lysander, VS Seeker for something that I might need here. And it does appear that he'll just Quaking Punch and knock out my Lugia, and the poison from the Gyarados will knock him out as well. So, you know, that was a situation where sometimes taking the riskier path, you know, did pay off. Now he does only have that one Seismitoad with that 2 colorless energy attached to it. And, you know, now he is in a very good situation here. Because now all he has to do is, you know, get up with the Seismitoad, start hitting for some damage, and appears that my Aegislash will be hit for a one-hit knockout if I can't find a way, or it'll get hit with another attack from the Toad if I can't find a way to get it out of that active slot. It does look I will change the stadium from a Sky Field to a Cloud Drain City, so finally we'll be able to see that card come into play. And I will discard the Shaman there to just get rid of that Headringer and the 2 Shamans, just to prevent him, if he wanted to Lysander up a Shaman, to start getting some damage on it. Now he can't do that, and I do not play any Super Scoop Ups in this deck, so once a Shaman is played, it's just taking up bench space. Might as well just discard them and prevent them from doing whatever. Pretty much nothing. And I'll have to retreat from the Aegislash here. I mean, because I can't. There's nothing else I can really do besides that. Now it becomes a matter of whether my opponent can pull up a Lysander before I'm able to knock out that Toad for 180. And I'll just Meta Lynx onto the Heatran that is off camera, and I'll be able to knock out that Robo Sub with the Lugia EX. And I'll Lysander up the Raichu, and I'll use the Gyarados Poison to hit the 90 damage and get the knockout there. So now I only have 2 prize cards left. If I can hit something else, just another energy, double colorless energy, and a muscle band, I can hit that 180 knockout on the Seismitoad. But if my opponent can pull off a Lysander, then he wins the game. It really comes down to this turn right here. If he can pull the Lysander, he'll be able to get the win here. But if he can't, if I can get that double colorless energy and the muscle band, I'll be able to pull out the win. So really, you know, this is the power of Toad right here. Just slowing down decks and taking its time, just slowing them down and slowing them down, slowing them down so tremendously that this video is going to be 40 minutes long for one game. The power of Toad. And he's going to VS Seeker for a Birch, so maybe his Lysanders are either prized or still in the deck here. Maybe he's trying to pull them out from there. If he can't pull something here, a hammer would be decent to prevent me from getting another knockout. or preventing, another turn, getting that one-hit knockout that I want to get. But he'll just play a Super Scoop Up and prevent me from trying to knock out that Toad there. So now he's just going into stall mode here, trying to take his time here. In a normal situation, I would have to try to retreat out of that Lugia because that poison damage is going to add up, but I'm playing a Seismitoad deck, so, Seismitoad's damage output is very low. I have the time to just take a turn or two and leave that poison on there because it's not really doing much right now at this point. And so we'll add I'll add the poison damage on there. Metal Links, or attach another energy to the Heatran. Metal Links an energy to the Heatran. Retreat the Lugia. And go into Heatran. And get the knockout that way. So really, my opponent was really afraid that I was going to pull out that double colorless energy in the muscle band, although I think he should have just left that on there and gone that way. And we will see that Seismitoad drop. If he can just pull up a Lysander or something. We do see the muscle band and the double colorless. See Robosub just get discarded there. And the Seismitoad come in the active slot. So at this point, the tide has shifted towards myself. My opponent was not able to pull up that Lysander that he needed to just knock out that Aegislash, but very close. And I do not know how many cards are left in my deck, but if you could try to stall, maybe that's something you could try to do. But at this point, if he doesn't find another Pokemon, the game is going to be over because I'll be able to get another knockout with the Heatran, as I have an energy in my hand. And my opponent really can't do much here. It appears that his deck is even more thinner than mine, so he ran through his resources incredibly fast. I'll attach an energy to the Seismitoad, probably just to retreat it here. And that's probably the only thing he can do right now. And, he doesn't really have many more options. Probably just going into this Robosub to stall a little bit more there. I don't know what was going on there. That was weird. Yeah, but I think his only option is really to retreat into the Robosub and trying to stall a little bit more there. Probably, and it appears to just play another Birch, and he'll get a Tails on that, so we'll have a couple more turns to do, just stall a little bit more. And let's see what he's got. Doesn't have another Pokemon. He can't really do anything. Oh, and if I do have the energy in my hand, then the game, this is it. This is it. Oh, and it doesn't appear I do not have the energy, but I am able to do Heatran's first attack, which does 40 plus 40. if there's a stadium card in play, enough damage to knock out. Oh, okay, so I'm just going to retreat the Heatran just to go out in style, I guess, and attack with the Lugia for a lot of damage and get the win here in this video. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I have a lot of fun making these videos. I hope you have a lot of fun watching them. And besides that, guys, I will catch you guys later in the next video.